that this park tells a story. Quite a few, actually. Six Flags in modern days hasn't been known much for theming or even lore. But you'd be surprised that there was some creative thought behind this park. And a lot of what you see here is actually intentional with the story. Not just any story, but his story. Get it? His story? Well, it all begins here. You might be wondering and asking, how does this building that houses the Joker Funhouse coaster have anything to do with the subject matter?
You see, this section of the park was the Spanish section of the park. And this building here back in the early days of the park used to be modeled after a Spanish castle and was called Castillo de Soto, which translates to Castle of Soto. Castillo de Soto once held a few things inside, such as a year-round haunted house that terrified people called the Horror Cave that I did a documentary on. Also, there was a few shops and a restaurant called Casa de Fritos located here. On the outside, you used to be able to walk on top of this building as if you were going to fire cannons at pirates. But Castillo de Soto, Castle of Soto, who is Soto? And why did he have a building at Six Flags Over Georgia that resembled a castle that was named after him? De Soto was the last name of Hernando de Soto, who led an expedition in 1540 in North Carolina. Fast forward, North Carolina had the first ever gold rush in the early 1800s, which resulted in the Carolina Gold Rush. Which is why Six Flags Entertainment Corporation's Park Carowinds Mine Train coaster is ironically called Carolina Gold Rusher.
So this brings the story to this attraction here, Six Flags Over Georgia's first ever roller coaster, the Dahlonega Mine Train.
Dahlonega Mine Train was an opening day attraction to the park back in June 16, 1967. This coaster used to have a lot more props and theming around it, such as figures of the likes of a prospector panning for gold, and according to Six Flags Over Georgia historian Tim Hollis, there were two men mountaineers drinking moonshine. Dahlonega. Dahlonega is a city located here in Georgia, roughly 65 miles north of Atlanta, was home to the second most significant major gold rush in the United States. The Georgia Gold Rush took place primarily in the 1820s in the North Georgia mountains, and those miners were called the 29ers. The 29ers, huh? Sounds a lot like the 49ers. Exactly. The San Francisco 49ers NFL team were named after the miners of the 1840s during the most significant gold rush in US history, the California Gold Rush. Since the Georgia Gold Rush predates that, Atlanta's NFL team, the Atlanta Falcons, could have been named the Atlanta 29ers, since the discovery of gold in Georgia during the Georgia Gold Rush of the 1820s was so significant in US history. But this ride, the Dahlonega Mine Train, represents the rough feel and likeness of riding in a mine train in a Dahlonega gold mine during the Georgia Gold Rush, as miners would go down hundreds of feet underneath the ground to mine gold. An interesting fact is that miners during this time made 90 cents a day, which in a year, a miner could purchase a decent home in Georgia.
Well, I'm a boots on the ground, in the trenches where the action is type of guy, so I say let's go on Dahlonega Mine Train and get on this thing. By the way, it's starting to feel a little cool and overcast, so I say let's get on our hoodie and get on riding. Something's eerie about today, like I have a weird feeling about riding this ride today, and I really don't know why. But let's get on in and see to further the progress of this documentary.
What in the world? I knew I had a weird feeling about riding this ride in that moment. Man, while somehow I ended up in an actual gold mine, since we're here trying to find our way out, let's explore, I guess. Well, miners during this time would work down here, as I mentioned, for 90 cents a day. Miners in mines just like this would dig for gold in a couple of ways. Let me explain. Usually the new hire would hold the rod to the wall while the other one hit it with a giant sledgehammer. Then the one holding it to the wall would twist, then repeat the same process. Kids unfortunately had to work in the mines back in the day with their fathers. Children would make 25 cents a day, which would often at times be used to buy dinner that night after work.
Oh boy, how do we get out?
Those who were privileged enough would operate the drifter drill, and operating the drill came with some pros and cons. The pros were that a drill operator made $2 a day, which during that time could get you a very decent house in 6 months' time. The cons. Well, you're operating a drill day in and day out for 12 hours a day in close quarters. Yeah, it's extremely loud. Here, take a listen. So with that, miners operating the drills would often go deaf in 3 months. So the owners of the mine got tired of that, so they would often rotate operators by giving them 2 weeks on duty working the drifter drill, then 2 weeks working a different job position.
Okay, I think we found our way out.
Whew. Okay, we made it out. That was nuts. Well, we made it back to the park. Oh my goodness, I am never riding that coaster again. By 1829, thousands of prospectors flocked to occupy territory alongside of the Yahoola Creek. The Yahoola Creek is located under 10 miles north of Dahlonega. This coaster was the park's second ever roller coaster, opening in July of 1969. Founder of Six Flags Angus G. Wynn stated that, "We installed and designed this ride especially for those children 5 years of age and younger that could not ride the Dahlonega mine train because of their size." This coaster was essentially intertwined with part of the layout of the Dahlonega mine train. As you can see, that part of the coaster would pass near this portion of Dahlonega's track. The mini mine train track was 800 feet in length, crossed over the Dahlonega mine train's track in 2 places, had 6-car trains that held 24 riders with a ride time of 90 seconds. Yahoola Hooler was renamed to just the mini mine train years later, similar to the one at Six Flags Over Texas. Fun fact, if you ever get a chance to make it out to Six Flags Over Texas, they still operate their mini mine train, also called Mini Mine Train, as it even resembles similarities in location of how close their mine train ride, Runaway Mine Train, is to their mini mine train coaster, just like how close Dahlonega Mine Train was to Yahoola Hooler.
Yahoola Hooler would leave the park in 1998, but as the mini mine train was leaving the park, the Looney Tunes were coming in the same decade of the 80s to assert their dominance.
We've arrived here next at Bugs Bunny BoomTown. Oh yes, Bugs Bunny BoomTown has significance in this story. Let's go back though. Aforementioned, the Looney Tunes came to Six Flags in the 1980s, and at Six Flags Over Georgia, there was Bugs Bunny World, a children's themed section of the park that resided in the former Spanish section of the park. This land, Bugs Bunny World, kept the same theming by being a Spanish-themed Looney Tunes land, although there was an old Looney Tunes land at the park prior, but in 1994, for 21 years, Bugs Bunny World entertained guests. Connecting the focus of this documentary to this segment, in the 1820s during the Georgia Gold Rush, a number of towns emerged to support the needs of miners. Some of these towns grew and prospered, such as ones in Dahlonega, Georgia. And as impactful of a force that the Looney Tunes were, they moved right in this area and asserted their dominance. Oh, by the way, the towns during the Georgia Gold Rush that emerged to support the needs of miners were called BoomTowns. In 2016, the park would introduce the change from the Bugs Bunny World to Bugs Bunny BoomTown. In 1968, Six Flags Over Georgia introduced a new section of the park, Lickskillet. This Frontierland section of the park is the ideal representation of what a boomtown is. In this section holds everything that a prospector would need to support their needs to get their job done to mine gold in those gold mines 12 hours a day, years in and years out. For example, there's a mercantile shop for one to meet all of their essential needs, entertainment such as miners doing slapstick comedy, games at the Gold Nugget, sweet treats to cool off after a long shift, and lastly, delicious savory food to fulfill the needs of any miners, young or old, at Miners Cookhouse, where it holds the best victuals in town. Within Miners Cookhouse holds immaculate theming such as lanterns, pans, dynamites, maps, and other intricate details that show that this is the right place to dine during a gold rush. Going back a little bit to the early years of this section of the park, musicians would perform right here near where the pavilion entrance is now, while the ice cream bucket resided here. Years later, this would be Lickskillet snacks. Here and now in modern times in this town looks a lot different. There's a hometown shop for funnel cakes, a refill station to fill up your canteen, and a turkey leg joint called the Hickory Chip that could please an entire family. I refer to this section of the park as a town. Lickskillet is imagined to be a town. In fact, in theory, theming, and imagination, Lickskillet is in fact its own town, located in Lickskillet, Georgia. This here of what you all see and know from the Six Flags Mercantile to Sky Screamer Drinks and Eats is all considered the town center. Venturing right on the other side of the town center is considered the outskirts, which holds the Tostitos Cantina, a wild and twisted experience of an attraction called Blue Hawk, and an American classic known as Great American Scream Machine. As you continue to venture outwards into the frontier, there lies a train that would transport cargo in and out of Lickskillet. Nearing the mountainside, you would stumble across the roaring rapids of Thunder River. Miners would often wash their clothes here, fish, take canoe rides, and those daring enough would ride raft rides downstream in these rapid roaring waters, enjoying the beautiful nature of Lickskillet, Georgia, then hike back up to the town center. Town folk would often set up businesses near the town to reap some of the benefits of what was happening with the gold rush nearby. A lemonade stand called Country Cousins Lemonade is there to enjoy on a hot Georgia day, as well as a new beverage invention of carbonation, syrup, and sugar that is captivating the taste buds of locals, created by this pharmacist Dr. John S. Pemberton, who is calling the new beverage of his Coca-Cola. Who knows if it'll be successful, but the locals around here really seem to love it. But out here in the countryside of Lickskillet, you'll see the beauty of Golden Falls. Golden Falls is a natural body of water that flows down, creating a serene waterfall that trickles down all throughout the area. As we step back and look up, Mount Sista Vexilla resides. This whole area is imagined to be a mountain, and held on a portion of the mountain is Carousel Hill.
But there's a question that has been looming throughout this segment and ultimately since the creation of this section of the park at Six Flags Over Georgia. What is Lickskillet and what does it mean? Well, to answer that best, let's head back to Miners Cookhouse and let's get ourselves a meal.
During this time in the 1800s, food was harder to come by. A lot of these places were uncharted lands, and then suddenly boomtowns arose. Miners flooded in droves, and one of the core essentials that a miner, let alone human beings, need to survive is food. With quick growth essentially overnight, there needs to be tons of food to meet the demand. Therefore, food was scarce, meaning insufficient for the demand. So the saying during this time was Lickskillet, or lick the skillet, because food was hard to come by in huge quantities. So when you had a meal,
so you best eat every last crumb of it, so I Lickskilleted my meal. And finally, allow me to tell you the story of William Willie Gibson, his mining company, and his wacky, innovative invention of mining gold.
Georgia Gold Rusher, Six Flags Over Georgia's newest and latest coaster here at the park. Originally, this ride was announced in 2023 to be called Georgia Surfer, and was set to open in summer 2024. The ride didn't open in 2024. But a trademark was filed in early 2025 for a change to occur. We would find out that the ride would be repainted from its orange and blue paint scheme to a more rustic look. The coaster would also be renamed from Georgia Surfer to Georgia Gold Rusher. This section of the park is also part of the Lickskillet section, located in the hypothetical Lickskillet, Georgia. And in that hypothetical town of Lickskillet, Georgia, this area is located at the bottom east side of Mount Sista Vexilla and is home to the Gibson Mining Company. Within the Gibson Mining Company lies a hydraulic mining machine called the Georgia Gold Rusher. Beforehand, miners typically would go deep underground using picks, shovels, hammers, and the occasional drill to get the job done. Willie Gibson, though, would invent the use of hydraulic placer mining. Hydraulic mining is a method of extracting gold from unconsolidated materials such as alluvial deposits and gravel using hydraulic jets. Walking to Georgia Gold Rusher, you're greeted with a sign letting you know of the name of the wacky hydraulic mining machine ahead. Once you first step foot into the queue, immediately you're immersed in the olden sound of banjos playing that take you back to a small town vibe of former times. Left and right, you see gravel all around. On top of the gravel, you see tools such as picks, scales, wagons, boxes, and the occasional dynamite. As you look to the right side in the queue, you see the Dahlonega mine train going around the track in and out of a gold mine. To the left, you see a larger-than-life, in-person first glimpse at the Georgia Gold Rusher as it pans back and forth at hyper-hydraulic speeds. Continuing to venture in the queue, you stumble upon more details of who the inventor of this machine is, what he's offering to prospectors, us the riders, to work for him at his mining company during the Georgia Gold Rush, the rules that one must abide by, along with an overview of the Gibson Mining Company site and a grand overview of the entire town of Lickskillet, Georgia, as a whole. Before you hop on the ride, you see a gas can, lantern, boxes, and barrels that read Caledonia Spirits. During deeper research, Caledonia Spirits arrived and are landcrafted in the heart of Vermont, and are the distillers of Bar Hill Gin and Phyllis Rye Whiskey, showing that these miners were on site having a grand old time.
Ooh, that's good.
Essentially, Willie Gibson is looking for prospectors, us the riders, to use his patented hydraulic mining machine, Georgia Gold Rusher, to work in the main extraction pond using the hydraulic mining technique. Within this process, we mine for gold using the water jets of his invention that causes alluvium, which is loose clay, silt, and in this case, tons and tons of gravel. Gravel all along can be seen on the exterior of the mining site of the main extraction pond. As you get on the coaster that resembles a large prospector's pan, there are 2 gondolas that seat 10 passengers each. As the ride dispatches, you begin with a sudden short launch forward. The train stills, then swiftly launches backwards, heading up one of the spikes, giving you a taste of how powerful this machinery actually is. Once you come down, the coaster launches you up a small hill, giving you a nice bit of airtime, then zips rapidly forward up the other spike, gaining massive momentum and speed. As the coaster ramps up to 60 miles per hour, it launches backwards across the main extraction pond, giving a very nice bit of airtime. It continues on backwards and back up the spike again with a wonderful amount of airtime, as you feel as if you're floating out of your seat. As you eventually land back into your seat, you zoom full speed one more time as you race across the track to get to the other side, crossing the main extraction pond, then experiencing the highest point of the ride with more floating airtime, then backwards back into the station. You then hear the inventor Willie Gibson himself as he welcomes you back.
Welcome back, y'all. I hope you had a blast on this here mining production. Now, with the right people comes the big good stuff. Push up your restraint all the way before standing up and exiting on the opposite side of the platform. I sure hope to see you around here again real soon.
As you leave the queue, you see more theming such as an advertisement for E.J. Hammer's Blacksmith, Dr. Phil McGolfer's all-purpose modern miracle elixir, Sidewinder Sue's Spuds and Such Canteen, which is advertising the best taters that are like no other. And lastly, the Bonafield Barrel Company, that is promoting their oak strong and iron-bound barrels for all occasions. The merger of Six Flags and Cedar Fair, creating the Six Flags Entertainment Corporation, has knocked it out of the park with creating an immersive backstory, thematic area, and an awesome coaster. Theming is so important to theme parks. It can take one from harsh realities of life and transport guests to different lands, moments in time, and various adventures, allowing a bit of therapy to one's everyday struggle, even if it's only for a few hours. When it comes to theming at a park, taking things a little bit further is always a plus, as the small things to complement the Georgia Gold Rush coasters, such as the Gold Rusher Burger, or even the Georgia Gold Rusher Golden Ale, that I'm sure would quench the thirst of a miner in the 1820s. So next time when you visit Six Flags Over Georgia, do enjoy the rides. In the midst of your enjoyment, slow down, take the trek around, and appreciate the thematic beauty and thought behind the creation of Lickskillet, Georgia. If you enjoyed this documentary, please be so kind to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video out. If you'd like to take your support just a little bit further, consider becoming a VIP channel member here on YouTube, or a patron over on Patreon. Also, you can check out on there my full tour walkthrough experience exclusive vlog as I venture 200 feet underground in an actual gold mine in Dahlonega, Georgia, now available via YouTube channel membership and on Patreon. Thank you all so much, and remember, be thankful for what you have and run your own race. Don't let lives on the internet rush your timeline. Someone will always have more than you, be richer than you, and be better than you at something. But what the world needs is you, as everyone else is already taken. So don't try to be anyone else. Your presence in your life is equally as valuable as anyone else's, and you will never truly be happy until you love yours. Miners would work 12 excruciating hours for 90 cents a day, and would have to work alongside of their children that would be paid 25 cents a day. The most precious time and the best time is the present. So live it up and mind your business, keep your eye on the prize, love one another, and maybe, just maybe, take it slow and hit up a theme park along the way.